Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Ah, and my first deep swallow. That was delicious. Have to have another. Today is, say it with me, people, it is Friday. Woohoo! October 11th, 10:11 today. And I've had a great week. I hope that you all have had a great week. It's been like a no drama week for me, which is amazing. Very little drama this week and very productive. I wonder if the two are related. Hard to say. I had a 3,000 word day yesterday. Woo-hoo-hoo. And I am at almost 11,000 for the week. And that's without today. So that feels great. It's been nice because I've had consistent levels this week. Have not had, knock on wood, we'll see how today goes, but I've not had a crash day this week. So like Monday was 2357, Tuesday 2873, Wednesday 2514, and then 3029 yesterday. So I am 100 words away, 115 words away from having my best word count week of the year. And yeah, it's great. And I'm really enjoying writing this book. That's those of you who are longtime listeners will know that I go through this every time, and I finally hit the point where I'm not worried about trying to make it be something else, and instead I am just letting it be what it wants to be, and then it's so much easier. Uh, it's interesting to me because normally my I write faster. It feels really smooth and clicky to me when I hit the point where the love interests get together. And like writing them apart, it goes slowly, but when they're together, it's like boom, boom, boom. And now in this book, it's two other characters that are not romantically involved. And it's just interesting. Different book for me. I mean, like Never the Roses, this is slightly different for me. Not a romance. There is romance in it, but it is not an actual capital R romance. Um, but speaking of writing fantasy and reading fantasy, this week I read um, T. Kingfisher's A Sorceress Comes to Call. I did review it. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, it's such a good book. Oh, it's so good. I adore her stuff. Um, it was just amazing. It's a Goose Girl retelling. Some of you who've read everything that I've written know that I have a Goose Girl retelling. This book makes me want to like unpublish mine and burn the paper copies because she did it so well. And I'm going to forever talk about this book as a way to do a fairy tale retelling without recapitulating the fairy tale. She has all of the elements in there, but they're scrambled up, they're turned around, and it's simply freaking brilliant. Highly recommend. It begins with a young girl who is the daughter of a sorceress, and she is creepily controlled by her mother, like literally magically controlled. And there are great other characters. I loved Hester, who I absolutely pictured as, excuse me, as Ursula Vernon, who is Ursula Vernon is T. Kingfisher's real name. I asked her when I saw her at Bubonicon why T. Kingfisher, and she said because she likes kingfishers. Um, but Ursula Vernon is her actual name, but she had started writing children's books as Ursula Vernon, and when she wrote her first adult horror, uh, like children were trying to read it. She was like, no. So So yeah, A Sorceress Comes to Call. Highly recommend. I need to go like put it on all of the award reading lists. In other news, um, the Reluctant Wizard audiobook is done. It is uploaded to Audible, where it will be exclusive on Audible for 90 days. Woohoo! So now I'm just waiting for them to approve it, which sometimes takes them a week or two, but I will let you all know when it's live. So that's exciting. And I had some other piece of news that I'd written down. Oh, well, it doesn't really count as news, um, but if you are not on video, or if you are, I wanted to point out that I got out my cauldron. It's this great cauldron that changes colors. So we are beginning spooky season here. I just don't believe in like pre-decorating. I don't start until like a couple weeks ahead. So, and I am going to be at Mile High Con in Denver, October 25th to 27th. So if you're going to be there, come and see me. You know you can find me in the bar. Cheers. All right. Other things I wanted to talk to you about, because I did write some things down. Okay, so this was a random thought. I caught myself doing this as I was writing, but it's on dialects. And I started to slide into kind of a dialect with one character and had to rein myself back. And I want to talk about why dialects are a problem, because I beta read a book for a friend that took place in Louisiana in the Civil War era. And she had, as you should, Black characters in there, of course. They were both slave and free Black characters, along with white characters. And she had some of the Black characters speaking in really a pretty authentic dialect, portraying that in the dialogue, showing that Southern accent. The problem was is that she had the Black characters doing it and not the white characters. Now, for historical authenticity, probably the Black slaves were going to speak, or Black free folk, I don't know. They're not going to speak in the same way as someone of, like, oh, high society Southern. Like we know what that very refined Southern accent sounds like. Um, a very refined, I want to say noble, and it's not noble, but you know what I mean, like from one of the wealthy families. They're going to talk differently than a white person who is from a very poor background or even a middling background and all of this kind of thing. And so it's natural to want to capture that sense of how people talk. The problem is well, I almost don't have to say it, right? It's problematic if you have like your Black characters speaking in a dialect that you don't have your white characters speaking in. Even if you know exactly what you're doing and it's historically authentic, it creates a racial separation that is, we don't need. We don't need. So the way that you get around this is you just don't do weird dialectical stuff in your dialogue to portray accent. By that, I mean you don't do like lion with an apostrophe and then no G. You don't do gonna or ain't, those kinds of things. You can slide into a little bit. I mean, you don't want to have everyone speaking like an android where they don't use contractions. I don't know why someone decided that an artificial intelligence or an android wouldn't know how to use contractions. But, like Data, they always had him be like, I am not going to. And like that's supposed to differentiate them, that they don't say, I'm not going to. I ain't gonna. um, there is a way that accent can imply a lack of education or a lack of intelligence, even if we don't mean it. I mean, I have Southern family that I can slide into that Southern accent so easily. Uh, in fact, you may have heard it right there that I do it. Like if I am around them or if I talk to them on the phone, I slide into that Southern accent. I do it when I'm around other people with strong Southern accents. But people get sensitive about it because there's like this idea that the Southern accent implies a lack of intelligence that some Southerners are very sensitive to. And of course, there's nothing about being Southern or having a Southern accent that means that you're not as highly intelligent as anyone else. Uh, but, people get sensitive about things and we don't want people to feel hurt. So when you're writing dialogue, you don't want to imply a lack of grammatical ability. Let's put it that way. That somebody drops the ing on their. I always forget what it is. Is it a participle? Instead of lying, it's lion. Um, just don't do it, because if you're doing your job, people are going to imagine how that character sounds anyway. You don't need to do that dialect. Uh, and I think we have all probably read the book where there was very heavy dialect portrayal in the way the dialogue was written, and it can be absolutely obnoxious. It can be irritating to read because you're like trying to forge your way through this dialect, and it's not necessary. It doesn't really add anything to the story. So there's my minor rant on that. Finally, today I want to talk to you at all about these success people, the people who promise to teach you how to do amazing things. And if you've been a long time listener, you know that I side eye these things pretty strongly, and I have good reason for it. Which this history that I'm not going to go into, uh, but yeah, I know a lot about people who use this particular kind of language to both undermine your good sense and your confidence in yourself and convince you that paying for their instruction is what you need. And so I'm looking at a new offering. Um, what do I want to call it? They're calling it like a session, a strategy session, that you can pay a substantial amount of money for to learn how to make your novel essentially be a bestseller. And I'm being careful here because I don't want to call out the particular person or site. They're representative of this particular kind of thing. And when a friend and I were discussing this particular new offering, and she was telling me that she was with some people and saying how she couldn't believe that this person was charging so much for a certain thing. And the younger writer turned to her and said, "It's an investment in yourself." And I feel like that's not spilling any kind of tea because that is part of the language that they use. It's an investment in yourself. And is it is it though? Dorinda Jones likes to tease me that is my favorite phrase. Is it though? Um, the idea of investing in yourself sounds so great. But in reality, what you're doing is investing. You're taking that money and you are giving it to someone else, right? Um, Investing is like where you put money into, you buy stocks that you hope will appreciate and make you more money in the long run. So there's this idea that if you pay this person to teach you to do a thing, then you are investing in yourself because you're growing and learning, and then you're going to eventually make more money. And maybe, but really you're investing in them. You're giving them your money. And I just want to talk about some of the language to look for here while simultaneously keeping this as vague as possible. Um, so basically, they're saying, I can teach you how to create a best selling book. Uh, and it looks like, just from reading this particular offering, they're talking about writing to market, which is it's a strategy, right? It's something that works for some people. Writing to market, for those of you who don't know, is like basically when you break down a successful book, Sarah J. Maas, and you go through beat by beat and you create the same kind of story with slightly different characters and situations. And I mean, it's a strategy, and it's a strategy that's worked for a number of people, especially when you have this incredibly hungry audience like there is for romantasy of that particular kind, which is why, and it goes all the way down to the title, which is why, like Sarah J. Maas's first, well, she did the Throne of Glass series, but the one that was the huge romantasy breakout is ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. And that is why now you have 2 zillion romantasy books called A Court of This or That. And there's like even title generators that you can use where, it can be like a legacy of X and Y. And you put in these different things, so then it becomes like a history of dreams and lightning or all of this kind of thing, which in one way is good. It's good marketing because it indicates genre, which is never a bad thing, but it's also writing to market. So the thing is here I am shaking my cane. I have to turn the magic wand upside down so I can be shaking my cane because I have been on this lawn low these many years. I remember when Donald Mouse, the agent, wrote the book, the breakout novel. He used to teach classes at like RWA conference. There are all kinds of people who have promised to teach you how to write a bestseller. And my question has always been is if they know how to write a bestseller, why aren't they making their money writing a bestseller? That's the first question you should ask, because clearly it is worth their time and energy to teach these classes and write books about it, more so than it is for them to actually write the bestseller, right? If we could all write ACOTAR, then we probably would, right? Because making millions then allows you to do all sorts of other things. I'm going to run out of time here. I might have to do a two-parter here. So I'm going to talk about another piece on this. Is one thing that this site says is how your own fears are holding you back from being successful. And I have a great deal of experience with, again, with this kind of thing, with this, where they say, well, it's your negativity that is the problem. It's your own fears. You're getting in your own way. You're holding yourself back. The thing about this strategy, which is core to every one of these success guru things, is that it's key to their guarantee. They say they guarantee that they can teach you how to do this thing if you implement everything they tell you. So if you are negative, or if you are letting your fear of success stop you, if you are getting in your own way, well then, it's not their fault, right? Because they can't control what you do, which makes it a very neat setup for them because they don't actually have to prove, you don't have to succeed for them to say, well, that they gave you everything, that you could have succeeded. And this whole idea that we are afraid of success. I don't know. It would be interesting to ask a psychologist, if it's a real thing. I think success can be a scary thing because it's life changing. I have a good friend who became a very, very successful novelist, and he'd been in a business with his wife. They had like some kind of, this was up in Wyoming, they had like an outfitting business together, something like that. And he wrote this book in secret, didn't tell anyone because he didn't want to be that person, right? Forever writing their novel. So he would write it at night after his family had gone to bed. And he became a breakout bestseller. And it was not easy in his family because his wife wanted him to keep doing their business together, right? She didn't want their lives to change. So so there is an aspect of fear of success that way because you are it's going to be a new and different. Okay, so I shouldn't have launched into this. I'm going to continue it on Monday, I promise. So give this some thought. Tell me what you think. If you think fear of success is real, or if it is part of this marketing ploy to tell you, well, if you don't succeed, it's because you were too afraid. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I hope you go out there and succeed at all kinds of things that you're not afraid. And if you're going to invest in yourself, do something that doesn't involve giving someone else your money. How about that? I will talk to you all on Monday. You all take care. Bye bye.